A very good morning. It's just past 8 this Monday morning and it's time again for Breakfast News. I'm Rukma and over the next 1 hour I'll be taking you to the top stories making headlines across India and the world. Well, we begin the day with how Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the State of the World special address. Also, we'll be taking a look at the life and work and the legacy that Kathak Maharaj, Birju Maharaj, who passed away early this morning at the age of 83. A look back at his work and the legacy he leaves behind, all that and more in the next 60 minutes. But first, here are the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to deliver State of the World special address at World Economic Forum's Davos agenda via video conferencing. Heads of state and government, CEOs and other leaders will discuss the critical challenges facing the world today and present their ideas on how to address them during the 5-day event. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari to virtually inaugurate Prime Minister Gati Shakti Sammelan for South Zone today. Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Lakshadweep, Maharashtra, Puducherry, Tamil Nadu and Telangana participating in the conference. India and UK to hold first round of negotiations for free trade agreement. Indian negotiating team led by Ms. Nidhi Mani Tripathi, Joint Secretary, Department of Commerce, and UK negotiating team to be led by Harjinder Kang, Director for India Negotiations at the Department for International Trade. First Grand Slam of the year, Australian Open, begins today. Former world number 1 Rafael Nadal, eyeing 21st Grand Slam title, will start his campaign today. Real Madrid lifts Spanish Super Cup title for 12th time, defeating Athletic Bilbao 2-0 in final. Luka Modric and Karim Benzema become heroes of Real's victory. Legendary Kathak dancer Pandit Birju Maharaj passes away after heart attack. 83-year-old Padma Vibhushan awardee Birju Maharaj breathed his last in Delhi. And we begin by telling you about how famous Kathak dancer Pandit Birju Maharaj passed away due to a heart attack this morning. Padma Vibhushan awardee Birju Maharaj, 83, breathed his last night. His grandson Swaraj Mishra gave this information on social media. Birju Maharaj, who belongs to the Lucknow Gharana, was born on the 4th of February 1938 in Lucknow. His real name was Pandit Brij Mohan Mishra. Apart from being a Kathak dancer, he was also a classical singer. Birju Maharaj was awarded the Padma Vibhushan in 1983. Along with this, he also received the Sangeet Natak Academy Award and the Kalidas Samman. In 2012, he was awarded the National Film Award for Dance Choreography in the film Vishwarupam. He was awarded the Filmfare Award in 2016 for choreography for the song Mohe Rang Do Lal in Bajirao Mastani. And joining us now is our correspondent Jaya Sinha for more on this sad news. Jaya, it's a big loss for the world of art, music and dance as well. Kathak Samrat Birju Maharaj passing away at 83.
Definitely, Rukma, the 83-year-old was one of India's best known artists. He was a living legend and we have lost one of the most loved artists of all time. He died at his home in Delhi late Sunday after suffering a heart attack. There are reports that he was playing with his grandson late on Sunday night when his health deteriorated and he became unconscious. And he was taken to hospital where he was declared dead. So there are reports coming, and as we know, all of us fondly called him Pandit Ji or Maharaj Ji, and he was known not in India but all over the world as one of the finest Kathak dancers ever born in India. And as we know, as you also mentioned, that he was a descendant of Maharaj family of Kathak dancers, which include his two uncles, Shampu Maharaj and Lachu Maharaj, and his father and Guru Achu Maharaj. And talking about him, we know Achan Maharaj was a great performer, and he performed at musical concerts all over India. And by the age of 7, Birju Maharaj had accompanied him to all over India, and he was started sharing stage with him. And today also his followers, his friends remember how his first major solo performance was at Manmat Nath Ghosh celebrations in Bengal in the presence of stalwarts of music. And he received recognition as a young dancer with great potential. And he never looked back after that, and his career graph rising steadily. And he was always a very integral part of any musical conference of repute, and no musical conference was complete without a performance by Pandit Birju Maharaj. And even in the early part of his career, he was part of cultural troops sent abroad by the government of India to represent India. He was a great, he was always represented India. He was one of the major brand ambassadors of Indian culture and music and dance. He has extensively toured all over the world, and we have seen a lot of times his performance at the Rashtrapati Bhavan at special functions. And as we know, he's a recipient of country's second highest civilian award, Padma Bhushan. And you can imagine a measure of his genius is the fact that at the young age of 28 years, he received the Sangeet Natak Academy Award, besides several other prestigious awards. And he's also known for his Kalashram productions. He established Kalashram to popularize Kathak, and he was training students, and he dedicated to bring to the audience productions of high standards. He's one of the artists who you can also credit for promoting dance dramas, ballets, as well as short productions, and trying to reach out to younger audience to make Kathak more acceptable and more popular. And besides, people know that you're talking about he's a Kathak maestro, but I tell you that he was also a superb drummer, and he used to play nearly all drums with ease and precision. He was especially fond of playing the tabla and naal, and he was also a singer par excellence, having command over thumri, dadra, bhajan and ghazal. We've seen her singing. There are a lot of videos of on set with Madhuri Dixit when he was choreographing Madhuri Dixit at the time of Davos. Both of them used to indulge in some jugalbandi and used to sing together. And he was a master storyteller. He always interpreted performances with incidents from his life. He used to take nuances from what is happening around us, the current affairs, and his life, experiences. He always, the way he narrated the incidents with his music, with his dance, always captivated the audience. Also, he was a keenly observant. He always had something to say about day-to-day incidents, keeping people around him entertained with realistic imitations and vivid descriptions. And there's really, people have really saddened, and there's people really remembering him as a unparalleled institution in the field of performing arts. He has influenced many generations through his genius, and may he rest in peace and continue to inspire generations and generations.
Right, he will continue to inspire generations and generations, a master storyteller, as well as being a great exponent not just of Kathak but of all Indian classical music, and as well as theatre and drama. Thank you very much, Jaya, for joining us there with those inputs. So Pandit Birju Maharaj leaves us at the age of 83. He passed away of a heart attack on Sunday night, and well, it's a big loss. Not just for Indian dance, Indian classical dance, for the entire world of Indian art as well. Well, moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the State of the World special address at the World Economic Forum's Davos agenda today. The virtual event will be held from the 17th through the 21st of January. It will also be addressed by several heads of state, including Kishida Fumio, Prime Minister of Japan, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia, Joko Widodo, President of Indonesia, Naftali Bennett, Prime Minister of Israel, among others. The event will also witness participation of top industry leaders, international organizations and civil society who will deliberate on critical challenges being faced by the world today and discuss how to address them. Well, joining us now is our correspondent Arun Sharma. Arun, a very good morning to you. Prime Minister to deliver the State of the World special address at the World Economic Forum's Davos agenda today. It's being held in a virtual format again in consideration, of course, of the COVID pandemic that's again seeing a sharp rise in numbers. But when we talk about the significance of Prime Minister Modi, India's voice likely to be heard again through the Prime Minister.
Good morning, Rukma, and indeed it's going to be significant when Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the World Economic Forum virtually. In 2018, Prime Minister Narendra Modi did visit Davos, and he addressed on the lines of climate change, terrorism. So these are some of the big points that was raised by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This time around, primarily the focus is very much likely to be, on various aspects that globally the countries are facing as of now. Number one, of course, is climate change. Now, we know this fact that this year only, India has made a big announcement that by 2070, India will be net neutral as far as carbon is concerned, as far as carbon emissions are concerned. Now, this is a big announcement from a country like India, which is a developing country and which has made such a big announcement of being a net neutral or carbon neutral by 2070. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very much likely to highlight that how it's now time to fight together the climate change aspect as well, because climate change is something a single country cannot fight. There is a need for a global coordinated effort to fight the menace of climate change as well, because if in case climate change is not dealt with right now, it can have a multiple repercussions or a cascading impact on various economies as well going forward. Even the smaller economies, the island nations might face the impact of climate change going forward, and therefore there's a need for a global coordinated effort on that aspect as well. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very much likely, can speak on the lines of climate change, as World Economic Forum has also come out with a statement which clearly mentions that climate change is likely to be the dominating point as far as the summit is concerned. Second, of course, is about the blockchains, cybersecurity, the new technologies that are emerging now in this new decade. Now, earlier also in this Sydney dialogue, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called upon the like-minded democracies to come together to ensure that this new technology of blockchains do not go in wrong hands. The youngsters are not misguided as far as this new technology is concerned, and there is a need for the like-minded democracies to come together. And it is very much likely that Prime Minister Narendra Modi can highlight the issue of cybersecurity, as far as the blockchains are concerned, cybersecurity is concerned on this international platform as well, as to what can be India's role and what, of course, can the global efforts can be as far as the blockchains are concerned, because cybersecurity is something that is concerning everybody, because the way technology is growing in the field of AI, the way blockchains, metaverse, these concepts are coming in. So there's a need for a global coordinated effort so that a proper ecosystem can be built to deal with the blockchains, the cryptocurrencies as well. Last but not the least, the vaccination aspect is very much likely to dominate this international platform. The World Health Organization earlier also mentioned this point that there is a need for equitable distribution of vaccines in in the world, and even today the underdeveloping countries are struggling to get the vaccines. Now, India being the pharmacy hub for the world, India being the pharmacy capital for the world, India is massively manufacturing and also exporting these, vaccines, the COVID vaccines primarily to the world. So what can be India's role? On one side, India has, administered more than 150 crore doses. So on the other side, India is also exporting providing the vaccines to other countries. Probably more than 100 countries are getting vaccines from country like India. So how can India play a leading role, and what is the need or primarily what are the global coordinated efforts as far as providing vaccines to other countries? So all these points are likely to be dominated as far as the World Economic Forum is concerned, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address is going to be very much significant in that aspect. Rukma?
Right, Arun. Also India would be looking for various sort of openings in terms of economic growth and development as far as the participating countries are concerned. So what can basically India expect this time around, considering the present situation?
So Rukma, global economy is a cause of concern for most of the economies of the world now. And we know this fact that in this post-COVID pandemic time, there is a twin challenge for both the developed countries, the developing countries, the underdeveloping countries as well. One, to fight the COVID pandemic, or to vaccinate their citizens. Or second, of course, to ensure that how can economic recovery can take place. In this new decade, most of the jobs will not return. Most of the jobs will not again be created because we are adopting technology, and that's the reason why there is a need for creating new avenues for the jobs in the world. How can there be a global coordinated efforts as far as focusing on sunrise sector, focusing upon the sectors that are very much lucrative, that creates primarily more and more job opportunities, as India is the home to the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. How can startups be given a major push? How can manufacturing sector can again be given a major push? Because India has launched various PLI initiatives, that means production linked incentive schemes. So how can primarily various economies can come together, can launch various initiatives so that the economy, the global economy, comes back on track? Because according to various international institutions' estimation, the global economy is shrinking in this post-COVID pandemic time. So how can primarily this global economy can, of course, expand? And what can be the role of developing countries and developed countries as far as expansion is concerned? So in that direction, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision is going to be very much interesting, because India is the country which has started an initiative known as PLI initiative. India is ensuring to become Atmanirbhar, not only for India but to become Atmanirbhar and be part of the global supply chain as well. That's what India's definition of Atmanirbhar is. And last but not the least, India is also focusing upon the startups. New sectors are being focused upon, new sunrise sectors are being focused upon. So how can primarily globally there can be coordinated efforts to boost the global economy? That is very much likely to be on the table.
Right, Arun. Well, many thanks for joining us there and for those inputs. So we'll be back with you throughout the day for more. And the first round of talks between India and Britain are being held today for a free trade agreement. The Indian delegation will be represented by Nidhi Mani Tripathi, Joint Secretary, Department of Commerce, while Harjinder Kang, Director of Dialogue with India at the UK's Department of International Trade, will lead their delegation. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal on Thursday started free trade agreement talks with Britain's Secretary of State for International Trade, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, in New Delhi. The FTA is expected to facilitate the goal of doubling bilateral trade between India and the UK by 2030. It was set by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Boris Johnson in May 2021. Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways Nitin Gadkari will inaugurate the Prime Minister Gati Shakti Sammelan for the South Zone today. In this online event, Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Bommai, Puducherry Lieutenant Governor Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan, Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways V.K. Singh and Road Transport and Highways Secretary Girdhar Armane will be present. Special Secretary, Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Amrit Lal Meena, and officials of the infrastructure ministries of the central and state governments will also attend the conference. Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Lakshadweep, Maharashtra, Puducherry, Tamil Nadu and Telangana are participating in the conference. India's Indian Navy's indigenously built guided missile destroyer INS Kochi conducted military exercises with Russian Navy's RFS Admiral Tribute's ship in the Arabian Sea last week. During the exercise, the navies of both the countries displayed mutual coordination, which included tactical maneuvers, cross-deck helicopter operations, and naval activities. And you received the gift of a retired warship in the field of tourism enthusiasm among tourists. INS Kukri, the first indigenously built missile corvette that was decommissioned after 32 years of service in December last year, reached due on Sunday. Collector Saloni Rai said due administration will get it formally on January 26 and will be available for public viewing. Now for some updates on COVID-19, a total of 18,286 new cases of corona infection were reported in capital Delhi yesterday. The Delhi government said that in the last 24 hours, more than 21,000 patients were cured and 28 people lost their lives. At present, the total number of active cases of COVID in Delhi are more than 89,000. In the last 24 hours in Delhi, more than 1,65,000 people were vaccinated against COVID. 41,327 new cases of COVID were registered in Maharashtra yesterday. According to the State Health Department, 40,386 patients were discharged from hospitals after their recovery. Active cases in the state have increased to 2,65,346. 8 cases of Omicron have been reported in the past 24 hours. In capital Mumbai, 7,895 new cases were reported and 11 people died. Joining us now is our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya for the overall picture as far as COVID-19 in the National Capital Territory is concerned. Tapas, a very good morning to you. The numbers, Tapas, they seem to be declining. What are the reasons? Tapas, if you can hear me.
Yeah, Rukma, hi. This is, I can tell you that yesterday, after almost 2 days, the positivity rate in the national capital came down below 13, but it was recorded 27.8%, and the positive cases also came down. Currently, it is 18,286 cases in the last 24 hours. Though the test conducted was also quite less. It was 65,561, 621 cases. So basically, close to 65,000 cases tests were done. But the only thing probably one can say is that the positivity rate came down below 30 after almost 2 days, and that is a good sign. Though the fatalities continue to be a little high. It is still over 20. In fact, yesterday it was 28. And that is where probably the worrying sign for people. On a much broader perspective, yesterday we completed 1 year of vaccination, and in this particular time, according to data that has come out, 70% of the adult population was completely vaccinated, and in fact, 93% of the adult population of the people who are eligible to be given vaccination, 93% of them have got first doses. So that is probably another silver lining amidst the gloom that we are seeing currently.
Right. And when we talk about our vaccination coverage, clearly it's progressing by leaps and bounds, and people of across the board participating in that with full gusto.
Absolutely, without an iota of doubt, especially given the fact that the 15 to 18 year old age category population, they are coming out in large number to get themselves vaccinated, and that's one of the reasons why one can say that almost 50% of the current population in the national capital is already vaccinated, and there is the the vaccination process is going at full throttle. Now, there are what we can tell you is that there is our sources are saying that by March maybe one can have another round of vaccination process for a 12 to 14 year of age category that can also start. But these are still on initial stages. The talks are going on, and one will have to wait before officially anything comes out. But that will also give a lot of momentum to the vaccination drive. And so far almost 1.565 billion doses have been administered across the country to 908 million people. A huge number, considering the fact that when the vaccination process started in the country, naysayers were a little skeptic about whether India will be able to provide vaccination to its population, considering the length and the breadth and the demographic channels that it had. But putting aside all those issues, the government of India, along with the state governments, have proceeded, and the result is when roughly 70% of the population have already got 2 doses of the vaccination, and it won't be long before each and every individual gets the vaccine that they want.
Right, Tapas, and when we talk about the strategy as far as the Delhi government is concerned, in order to deal with the rising cases of COVID, we believe that the curbs are as they were last week, the weekend curfew as well as the night curfew. Take us through some other restrictions that people would have to continue with in the National Capital Territory.
Yes, the curfew, the weekend curfew is still very much on. The night curfew is very much on. There is I can tell you is that the markets are they're being told to work in a manner that they follow the COVID protocol behavior, and there is a strictness about that. The malls are closed. Your movie halls are still closed. All those things which have been a few days back when we reported about Delhi government's attempt to curb these things in order to have not to rein in the surge in the cases is still on. Although what we believe is that the Delhi government is taking a close look at the number of cases. If it has reached a plateau, and as I said that the number of cases have also come down, and if the trend continues in the next 4 to 5 days, we may expect some relaxation to kick in. But so far, all the what I can tell you is what the curves that were already in place is still very much on, and depending upon the next 4 to 5 days, if there is a steady reduction in the number of cases and the positivity rate, along with the fact that there is no surge in other cases in the other neighboring states, we might find that some of the curbs or the restrictions that were imposed in the National Capital Territory may be lifted soon.
Right. Well, Tapas, many thanks for joining us there with those inputs, and you keep your eyes on that story. And it's time now in Breakfast News to take stock of what's happening around the globe in our next segment, Across the Globe. And we start off by taking a look at the top story from across the world. Beginning with COVID-19 updates, COVID-19 cases are piling up, with the global tally touching more than 32 crore 86 lakhs. Till latest reports came in. So far, over 26 crore 73 lakh people across the world have recovered, while more than 55 lakh 57,000 lives have been lost. The US continues to remain the worst affected, with over 6 crore 66 lakh cases, the highest in the world. The country's death toll from COVID-19 has passed 8 lakh 73,000. Meanwhile, Europe has become a hotspot of COVID-19, registering a hike in the number of infections by the day. The UK has the highest number of cases in the continent, which number above 1 crore 51 lakh, followed by France with over 1 crore 38 lakh cases. Russia, with COVID-19 cases standing at above 1 crore 7 lakh, is Europe's third most affected country. And in Italy, the number of COVID cases has declined to over 83 lakh 49,000 so far. The U.S. Surgeon General has called the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to block President Joe Biden's pandemic-related vaccination or testing mandate a setback for public health. The U.S. Apex Court had blocked the mandate on January 13th. Dr. Vivek Murthy, U.S. Surgeon General, said the ruling does not stop workplaces from voluntarily putting vaccination requirements in place and urged companies to do so. The Supreme Court is, however, allowing Biden's administration to enforce a separate vaccine requirement for healthcare facilities. A decision, Murthy says, will help create a safer environment for healthcare workers as well as for patients. Dr. Murthy also continued to urge people to get vaccinated and boosted.
Well, the news about the workplace requirement being blocked was very disappointing, Martha. It was a setback for public health because what these requirements ultimately are helpful for is not just protecting the community at large, but making our workplaces safer for workers as well as for customers. So the good news, though, is that there is nothing that stops workplaces from voluntarily putting these requirements in place. In fact, many have done so already. A third of the Fortune 100 companies have put these in place, and many more outside have. So we are strongly encouraging companies to put these requirements in place voluntarily. And in the healthcare setting, that ruling was upheld. And so 17 million healthcare workers in settings across the country are still required now to get vaccinated. That will help create a safer environment for healthcare workers as well as for patients.
The U.S. state of Georgia has witnessed a huge spike in the number of Omicron cases among children as the variant rages across the country. Children below the age of 5 who are not eligible to receive a vaccine remain at higher risk of catching the virus as a result. While children show mild symptoms, the sudden jump in cases among the young has overwhelmed hospitals and clinics. Doctors say it is too early to determine whether Omicron causes more severe illness in children than other variants of coronavirus, but that its extremely high transmissibility is one key factor that is driving up hospitalization. In Georgia, weekly data last collected on January 13 showed a total of 21,960 cases of COVID for all children under the age of 18. Last week, the U.S. broke a global record for the number of new corona infections in a day. The U.S. reported 1.35 million new coronavirus infections on January 10th, the highest daily total for any country in the world. Over 4 lakh COVID-19 infections were reported in the United States on Sunday, while 886 persons lost their lives. In the Netherlands, thousands of protesters packed Amsterdam streets on Sunday in opposition to the government-imposed COVID-19 measures and vaccination campaign as virus infections hit a new record. Regular anti-coronavirus protests are held across the country, and Sunday's large gathering was joined by farmers who drove to the capital and parked tractors along the central museum square. The Netherlands had one of Europe's toughest lockdowns for a month through the end-of-year holidays. Amid growing public opposition, Prime Minister Mark Rutte on January 14th announced the reopening of non-essential stores, hairdressers, beauty salons and other service providers under strict conditions. This was announced despite infections reaching another record high above 36,000 on Sunday. Beijing will require travelers to get a COVID-19 test within 72 hours of arrival in the Chinese capital. This was announced on Sunday, a day after the city reported its first Omicron case and as it readies to stage the Winter Olympics next month. On Saturday, the city reported the first local infection of the highly transmissible Omicron variant involving a person who had visited multiple malls and restaurants in the previous 14 days. The person had not left the city since the start of this year. The new rule, effective from January 22nd to end March, is aimed to help with early detection of Omicron, which is surging globally, and the control of epidemic risks. Already, the capital city requires inbound travelers to take a COVID-19 test within 48 hours of departure for the city and to have a green code on the city's health tracking app. China has, however, not said so far how many Omicron cases it has detected in total. North Korea fired on Monday what could be a ballistic missile, Japan's government said, in what would be the 4th test this month. South Korea's military said the launch involved an unidentified projectile that fell into the sea off its east coast. Neither country provided any other details. Pyongyang continues a wave of weapons tests that have triggered condemnation at the UN. In less than 2 weeks, nuclear-armed North Korea have conducted 3 other missile tests, an unusual frequency of launches. 2 of those involved single hypersonic missiles capable of high speeds and maneuvering after launch, while the last, on Friday, involved a pair of short-range ballistic missiles fired from train cars. The launches have drawn both condemnation and an appeal for dialogue from a US administration that has imposed new sanctions over previous North Korean missile launches and is pushing for more. In New York, the Islamic Cultural Center in the Bronx held funerals on Sunday for several victims who died in an apartment building fire that killed 17 people, including 8 children. Many of the residents of the 19th-floor Twin Parks Northwest building that caught fire were immigrants from Gambia. The catastrophe would stir questions on safety standards in low-income city housing. It was the second major fire in a residential complex in the United States in recent weeks after a public housing apartment building in Philadelphia caught fire in early January. Former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is negotiating a plea bargain to end his corruption trial. According to sources, Netanyahu has pleaded not guilty to charges of bribery, breach of trust and fraud in 3 cases for which he was indicted in 2019. All are being tried together. Netanyahu lost power in June after 12 consecutive years as premier and is now opposition leader. Meanwhile, a lawyer for Netanyahu, who has denied all wrongdoing and accused prosecutors of a politically motivated witch hunt, did not immediately reply to a request for a comment. Netanyahu has vowed to unseat his successor, Naftali Bennett, a nationalist straddling a coalition of highly diverse parties. In Egypt, a project to expand parts of the Suez Canal is expected to be completed after 2 years of work in July 2023. Chairman of the Suez Canal Authority announced accelerated plans to extend a second channel of the canal. Further, to enlarge an existing channel after the Ever Given container ship ran aground and blocked the waterway for 6 days last year. Ships pass through the canal in convoys, and the extension of the second lane would increase capacity by 6 ships. The southernmost 30 kilometers of the canal is said to be widened 40 meters eastward and deepened to 72 feet from 66 feet. This will improve ship navigation by 28% in this difficult part of the canal. Asked about shipments of Iranian fuel or oil passing through the Suez Canal despite US sanctions on Iranian oil sales, Lebanese armed group Hezbollah imported Iranian fuel last year, a move it said was aimed at addressing shortages. Shipments were routed via Syria to avoid complications with sanctions. Somalia's government spokesperson was wounded Sunday in a suicide bombing that the Al-Shabaab terror group has claimed responsibility for. Mohammed Ibrahim Mualimu appeared to be the sole target in the attack near his residence by a busy intersection in the capital Mogadishu. Somalia Prime Minister Mohammed Hussein Roble, in whose office Mualimu works, called the bombing an odious terror attack. According to Prime Minister's office, Mualimu's wounds are non-life-threatening. Al-Shabaab frequently carries out gun and bomb attacks on Somali security and government targets, but also on civilians. It has been widely expected that such attacks would increase as tensions rise in Somalia over a national election that has been delayed for almost a year. Rain, sleet and snow covered the southeastern United States on Sunday as a winter storm combining high winds and ice hit the U.S. East Coast over the holiday weekend and will continue to impact it today. The highest snowfall totals were expected along the spine of the Appalachians as well as across the lower Great Lakes. The most significant icing was expected over the Carolinas, with significant impacts to travel across those regions. Nearly 74 million people are under winter weather alerts. Georgia governor has urged people to avoid non-essential travel in areas impacted by the storm. The governors of Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina and South Carolina had declared emergencies due to the storm. Airlines cancelled over 2,700 US flights on Sunday due to the storm. And it's time now to take a look at what's trending on the World Wide Web in our next segment, the Web News Review. And my colleague Arun now joins us sorry about that. My colleague Deepika joins us with what's trending on the World Wide Web and on social media. Very good morning to you, Deepika. It's over to you. What stories have you selected this morning?
Very good morning, Rupma. Thank you so much. Let's quickly take a look at all that is trending across the web today, this morning. And to start with the latest update, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver a special address at the World Economic Forum's Davos agenda today. Now, after the coronavirus pandemic, the agenda is going to be held virtually, and the Prime Minister's special address will come at around 8:30 p.m. according to the Indian Standard Time today evening. And also, after Prime Minister Narendra Modi, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will also be delivering his special address today at the Davos agenda. Well, moving on to our next update that is trending across the web today is from the Taliban. As per the AP interview, Taliban pledges that all girls will be back in school soon. Now, the Taliban says that all the girls will be allowed to join back the schools after 21st of March. Now, 21st of March marks the new year for the Afghanistan, for Afghan people. That marks as the new year, and Taliban pledges that all the girls will be back to school soon after 21st of March. Moving on to our next update that is trending across the world this morning is that legendary Kathak dancer Birju Maharaj has died at the age of 83. Yesterday till late night on Sunday evening, he was practicing with his grandsons, but after severe pain, he was taken to the hospital and then he was declared dead. He was declared dead at the hospital, and the reason was announced as a cardiac arrest. Birju Maharaj has been regarded as one of the legendary Kathak dancers and indeed a great loss to the world of art and culture. Well, moving on to our next update. With that, it's on Djokovic. Novak Djokovic, the tennis star, has finally been deported from the Australian airport from the country of Australia. Novak Djokovic was apparently seen wearing a face mask, and was seen following the COVID-19 protocols after he was deported due to his visa issues, due to his visa battle that he lost in the court on the grounds of incomplete paperwork, and he was not having the vaccine certificate with him. So that was the reason he was deported back from the place, and he is now being sent to his country. Moving on to our next update, the last update of the day, which is trending across the web today, is that Prince Harry is seeking his right to pay for UK police protection when in Britain. Well, Prince Harry says that he don't want the Britain taxpayers to pay for his protection, and that is the reason he is seeking his right and raising an appeal in the court so that he can pay for his police protection when he is in UK due to his protection issues which he faced last time when he was in UK, and this time he wants to make sure that his protection is there, but then again he wants to pay for it himself. Well, that's all that we have this morning in the Web News Review. Rukma, back to you.
Well, many thanks, Deepika, for joining us there and for that Web News Review. Well, let's move on to our next segment, in which we take a look at all the news from the world of sports in our segment Sports Track. The 2022 Australian Open is scheduled to take place at Melbourne Park starting today. Neither Switzerland's Roger Federer nor Serbia's Novak Djokovic are in the Australian Open. So Spain's Rafael Nadal has a chance to win the 21st Grand Slam title of his career. If he wins the title this time, he will become only the second player in the Open era to win all Grand Slams twice. Nadal will start his campaign against Marcus Giron of America. Early in 2009, Nadal won the Australian Open when in the finals he defeated Roger Federer. Real Madrid have won their 12th Spanish Super Cup with a comfortable 2-0 victory over Atletico Bilbao in Saudi Arabia. It was a historical night for Real Madrid's Luka Modric. He not only scored the winning goal versus Athletic Club in the Spanish Supercopa final, but also became the oldest Real Madrid goal scorer since Amancio Amaro scored in 1976. The Croatian also won the game's MVP award. Karim Benzema secured the trophy with a 52nd minute penalty. The Frenchman's shot bounced off his standing foot and struck Yere Alvarez's arm before the referee went to the monitor to confirm the penalty. Before that, Madrid were already cruising as Luka Modric scored a beautiful first half strike to give Los Blancos the lead before the interval. Carlo Ancelotti's side head back to Spain with their 12th Super Cup triumph and also hold a 5-point lead in La Liga. And on to some badminton updates. Lakshya Sen becomes the first Indian to win an Indian Open men's singles title on debut in the tournament as he beat reigning world champion Loh Kyan Yew. The 20-year-old Sen produced a fine performance to outshine the 5th-seeded shuttler 24-22, 21-17 in the summit clash that lasted 54 minutes. Lakshya had claimed his maiden World Championships medal with a bronze in Spain last month. With this, Lakshya has won his first Super 500 title. Lakshya's victory came after the Indian pair of Satwik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty became the first team from the country to win India's flagship tournament after toppling 3-time world champions from Indonesia, Mohammad Ehsan and Hendra Setiawan. Satwik and Chirag showed nerves of steel as the duo saved 5 game points to overcome the world number 2 Indonesian pair, 21-16, 26-24 in 43 minutes. Liverpool climbed to second in the Premier League after earning a 3-0 win over Brentford at Anfield on Sunday in their first Premier League match since 2017 without both Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah. Goals from Fabinho, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Takumi Minamino earned Liverpool the full 3 points against the Bees. The win moved Jurgen Klopp's side above Chelsea in the table and 11 points behind leader Manchester City with a game in hand. City beat Chelsea 1-0 on Saturday. It was a welcome way to bounce back from a 3-game winless streak in the league, which has allowed City to climb clear. The Reds hosted the Bees for the first time since 1989, looking to put the frustration of their 0-0 draw with Arsenal in midweek behind them. And it's the 17th of January today. Let's take a look at the major happenings that took place on this day in history. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. In this edition of the Saga of Freedom, we remember freedom fighter and veteran leader Jyoti Basu on his death anniversary and Assamese cultural icon Jyoti Prasad Agarwala. Let's take a look.
Today we remember the freedom fighter and veteran leader Jyoti Basu, who died on 17th January 2010.
In 1930, when Jyoti Basu was just 16 years old, Master Da Surya Sen and his band of valiant freedom fighters attacked the British armory at Chittagong. They were hanged by the British, leading to a deep impact on the youth of Bengal. Basu was studying law in London when in 1937 he joined Indian student unions in Britain such as the India League led by V.K. Krishna Menon and the Federation of Indian Students.
The turning point in his life came in 1937-38 when he joined the London Majlis.
On returning to Calcutta in 1940, Basu enrolled as a barrister at the Calcutta High Court and also joined Communist Party of India (CPI). Basu initially provided safe houses for underground leaders in the independence movement. Following the Bengal famine of 1943, Basu was involved in relief work.
He also participated in the Tebahaga movement between 1945 and 1947 that sought to end the food crisis in Bengal. According to Basu, the only means of solving the issue of food crisis was to completely dismantle the zamindari system and to drive out the British from India. During the Indian Navy uprising of 1946, Basu organized a railway strike in support of the uprising and later also secured the release of various political prisoners.
Post-independence, Jyoti Basu served as Chief Minister of Bengal for 23 years. Till his death, he continued serving the country.
17th January is also the death anniversary of Assamese cultural icon Jyoti Prasad Agarwala, born in 1903 to Kiran Moi and Parmanand Agarwala in Tamilbadi, Assam. Jyoti Prasad's parents were actively involved in spreading the spirit of nationalism among the people of Assam, which was gaining ground after the partition of Bengal in 1905.
Thus, from his early childhood, Jyoti Prasad was exposed to nationalist ideas and his outlook was deeply influenced by them. During his school time itself, he joined the freedom movement. He was imprisoned for 15 months during the civil disobedience movement. Later, he also emerged as a prominent underground leader of the Quit India movement in 1942.
Jyoti Prasad's works offer insightful perspectives on the times of freedom struggle. His play Lobhita provides a vivid picture of the society set in the backdrop of the Quit India movement of 1942. It represents the anti-imperialist voice of the common man fighting for Swaraj and aspiring to run the government.
His plays also give voice to the woman and through her, perhaps, also articulates his views on women and the existing social practices. He is also credited for establishing the Chitrabang studio at the Bholagudi tea estate and making the first Assamese movie, Joymoti. For his significant contribution to Assamese cinema, he is popularly called the Roopkowar of Assamese culture. His death anniversary is observed as Silpi Divas, Artists' Day, in his honor, pays tribute to the noble soul.
Let's take a look now at today's weather forecast and the weather report. The satellite picture shows isolated to scattered light moderate rainfall over coastal Andhra Pradesh and Rayalaseema and over Tamil Nadu and Kerala and Mahe in the next 2 days. Isolated light moderate rainfall likely over sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Isolated to scattered light moderate rainfall over Arunachal Pradesh, Assam and Meghalaya and Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. Isolated to scattered light moderate precipitation over Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh from today till the 20th. Isolated light moderate precipitation over Himachal Pradesh from today till the 20th and over Uttarakhand from the 18th to the 20th. And now let's take a look at temperatures recorded across the country. Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Breakfast News. Today, as we go, we mourn the passing away of dance legend and Kathak maestro Pandit Birju Maharaj. We leave you with glimpses of Maharajji's brilliant work and art. Take a look and have a great day. Namaskar.
गगरिया